Oh, just to add with that last post that I've done, where I've actually, um, so the my year 10 yearbook and so forth. After 1995, with these ridiculous organisations that said they're going to rally around friends and family, I want to know why police haven't charged those organisations, because that's criminal. You can't be an organisation and break privacy and confidentiality laws, whether you like it or not. And let me go with some more light. And that's what they've done. So I actually turned around to them and said, "You're not going to rally around friends or family. I've already told you that you were given false information about me. What you're going to do," excuse me, I'm losing my voice, "is mind your own business and fuck off. You are going to fuck off. I've told you several times to fuck off." Including in 2017 when I said to this organisation, I screamed down the phone to them and said, "Can you fuck off? You are breaking the law." And this bastard from, hang on, what was it? Acute Care or something, laughed at me. I was like, "Laugh all you want, you fuckwit. I'm going to push as hard as I can to get you sued and arrested." And it's been a smart ass. But literally, this guy, and was it Acute Care or some crisis group? Because somebody made up a story that I was suicidal. I'm like, I wasn't suicidal. My stepbrother Daniel Rackley was suicidal. You're an idiot. Like, literally. So this deadbeat loser, it's affiliated with St. Vincent's. So St. Vincent's got plenty of money. Pay up, you fucking weirdos. He was laughing at him. I'm like, you can't just go and break the law. You can't break. Okay, a great example to try and explain to these morons that do this work is I was trying to get them to understand. They go, okay, my GP cannot tell my specialist information about me without my permission. Okay, that breaks privacy and confidentiality laws. So you don't have a right to go and try and find people I'm related to or friends with. That is a definitely breaking privacy, pride, and confidentiality laws, you dickhead. This guy's a fuckwit. Those organisations are fuckwits. So what happened was after they did this, what I had was, so I had a weed farmer contact me on social media and says, "Oh, he remembers me when I was a cowboy." Never been a cowboy, even if I've dressed up as one, because I've done a question about him. And I used to apparently be hanging around rodeos with my girlfriend. He described my mother's nephew, Shane Childs, exactly. Someone that goes pig hunting, shooting, collected reptiles, involved in nature, drove a ute. I've always driven sports cars. The only time I haven't driven sports cars, I've driven muscle cars. It's been muscle cars or sports cars my entire life. I've never sat in a ute. Seriously, wouldn't. Yeah. So that actually happened. That was in 2016. This guy, he was this weird gay guy driving a quad bike around a property that goes pig hunting, actually messaged me and thought we're like-minded. And apparently I used to be someone that went pig hunting, except I've never have in my entire life. He was actually talking about and I really don't want to ever be known that I'm related to my mother's sister's children and all their low-life scum. He was talking about Shane Childs. So there was Shane Childs, then I had somebody else from the area because of me going to musicals in the area. But remember, I was only in that area for 6 years. So they're talking about people that lived in the area for longer or even before I'd ever lived there. And yes, I was involved in the musical society and other societies, but so were other people with the name Justin from my high school. So was the other person. Here's someone else as well. So you got Shane Childs, okay, mum's nephew. And it was great because they're talking about some blonde guy with girlfriends. I'm like, man, I've been openly gay. So the guy goes, "Well, oh, when were you gay?" I'm like, my entire life. Everyone knew this. I just came out publicly in 1992. He goes, "No, I remember you at rodeos with your girlfriend." I'm like, "No, I've never had a girlfriend." And because I was gay, I had boyfriends. And I was including Sam Page. It was a guy I dated when I was like only dating. So even when I was young, going to high school, I used to date guys and go on coffee dates. So I never had girlfriends ever in my entire life. I always had boyfriends. And went on, like even in high school, I went out on coffee dates with guys. So there was no issues with me being openly gay. I was openly gay. So this guy was like, no, you went to rodeos. It's like, no, I've never been to rodeo. Thanks very much, not my scene. That's my cousin. Well, oh God, I don't even want to admit that that's my cousin, Shane Childs. However, I'll show you a photo. Shane Childs never rode horses when we were younger. There's a photo of me taken in where I'm wearing my cowboy hat. as a 4-year-old, 3-year-old on a horse in Blacktown. And Shane Charles is dressed as an Indian. So Shane Charles was dressed up as an Indian, I was dressed up as a cowboy. So I've always worn cowboy hats, and I actually used to have a quarter horse that I used to show for quarter horse classes. Now there's a difference. I didn't do rodeos, but I did royals. So at the royals we had thoroughbred hacks, we had Australian studbook horses, we had quarter horses. Now each class is a different outfit. For example, when I'm wearing my mount riding equipment class for the English Gentleman's Turnout class, it's an Old English Gentleman's Turnout. But I'm going in with Major's Fantasy, which was Katie, her stable name was, I think. But that was from Brian and Chris Adams. We got Major's Fantasy from. So I would dress up in the whole almost Texan attire, the big gallon hat, the cowboy boots. It's quarter horse, so it was almost very like a Texan style. It was all basically to do with quarter horse and what your quarter horse could do. Now, that horse was actually from Chris and Brian Adams, who've moved from Tamworth. They were near Moore Creek in Tamworth. Now they're in Brisbane. I love that horse. That was a great horse. Same as I had Redinka. What was Redinka's full name? Can't think. But Redinka was my horse that I had for jumping. Kane, which is the stable name of Mirrabooka Rider, was my Australian stock horse. Okay? Everything has a different outfit. Town Gossip is Bobby. That's one of the thoroughbreds we had for the Royals. And also Makar Flying High, or Makar High Flyer. His stable name was Sam. That was another one that we had, another thoroughbred hack. So they're all different classes. So yes, of course I wore a cowboy hat and cowboy boots, but the cowboy boots I wear out for fashion. They're fashion. And my Justin boots that were purchased at Max Shoes in Bondi Junction, I brought for two things. Comfort. They're great, and I've always worn them, but oh God, they're in storage, I hope. I brought them to wear out. They got great with my suits and so forth, but also as an extra pair of shoes for when because I was still doing horse shows when I was working for Star Casino. I retired in 2005. No, the last show I did was in 2004. I retired in 2004 from horse riding professionally. And I used to take them around with me because that way I was like, well, I can work the horse in these, plus I can go out in them. My other boots that I wear, which people look at and go, oh, they're cowboy boots. It's like, they're a fashion boot to look like a cowboy boot. The bottom of them was gold leaf. They're from Italy. So anyway, let's just get, and I don't know why this has to be brought up. Apparently it does, because some people have sick minds and make up stories. But the person who first used to wear the cowboy hat was me. Big gallon white cowboy hat. Okay? And you can see that in a photo of me back when I'm 3 years of age. But that's when we're still living in Rooty Hill. And that was a competition. I wasn't being a cowboy. I wasn't going to rodeos. It was a competition. Same as with my quarter horse. These are parts of different education of horses that you're showing for this particular class. For example, if you have a hunter class, which my twin sister used to do great with the hunter classes, you've got to have a hunter horse, okay? Or a pleasure horse, or, your Australian stock horse, and so forth. Oh my God, some people are really dumb people. But again, not farming. I don't know anything about the outdoors or agriculture or reptiles or snakes or hunting. I have no idea. A horse stud is not a farm. Just so people understand that. So living on a large horse stud with landscape gardens, stables, swimming pools and arenas to work horses in, that isn't farming, sweetheart. I couldn't grow a fucking plant. I have no idea about the outdoors at all. At all. Except for going from the main house, walking down to the stables, unrugging my horse, saddling my horse up, taking my horse out to the arena, lunging my horse, getting on, educating my horse, and, that. And then at a show, we used to get friends to do strapping for us. I remember here in Moore Park in 1998 or 1997 when, which horse was it? Oh, Mirrabooka Night Rider used to rear up and they're fantastic. Kane, his stable name was, he stopped the Grand Parade. He reared up on the back of a police horse went right through the three rings of the Grand Parade, had to be taken out by the green coat. Actually, I think Grant Biffin might have been one of the green coats back then. I knew Grant very well back in those days. And yeah, we had the horse, and I used to ride my horse around Moore Park back then. So, where was I going with that? Yeah, used to. So that was a difference, with different styles of different horses. He's an Australian stock horse. So to go in Australian stock horse classes, for that, you have to wear the Australian stock horse attire. It makes sense, but people are just so dumb. They don't understand. Anyway, that's right, where I was getting with that one. So after, who was it? It was someone from the suburbs that we used to know. So when we had the horse stud in Rooty Hill, it was, oh God, what was her name? I think it was Rebecca. No, not Rebecca Johnson, who married Alex Posey from Rooty Hill, who we used to go to Kumara Pony Club with and had Jamboree in Castle Hill. It wasn't her. It was the other Rebecca. It was Rebecca who used to, oh God, I can't think of her name. I think Manus kept in touch with her. We had her strapping for us and washing horses and so forth for us. And I remember I came after getting, so Mum's having to sleep in Moore Park because, exhausted from the show. I've come out, I'm down where, it wasn't J Block, that's up on the corner, down near the bottom, which is now where Rose and Steve own Moore Park Riding School. Rose would remember the Purdy's, my mother Carol Purdy and Marianne Purdy, because Rose rode horses against my mother and my auntie growing up in the suburbs of Sydney. So the people who own Moore Park Riding School, if they still do, Rose and Steve were married. Hi, if you remember me, I'm one of the twins. I'll put this out there. One of the Purdy twins they used to call us growing up. Yeah, that's me. Yeah, the arrogant cunt that I am. Yep, I turned out like Reg. Arrogant. So, that's me. Yeah, just ask my mother. So I remember, look, I haven't seen them for years. I know when Mum was staying with me in Surrey Hills at one stage, she said, oh, come on, let's go and see if Rose is up the road. So we walked up to Moore Park to see if Rose and Steve were there. But vaguely do I remember Rose and Steve. I know they're divorced, because that is a long time ago. We're going back well over 20 years. Vaguely, but they used to own Moore Park Riding School in Moore Park, Sydney. Anyway, get off the track. So one of the strappers that we had for us then, I'm there and I've gone out of the ring. I'm like, I was going to bloody kill Kane for embarrassing me. Okay. And yeah, I did. Mum's at the truck in Moore Park and I've grabbed my saddle and I threw it at her. That's true, that did. I threw it. I had a big temper tantrum. She used to go, oh yes, your lordship. What now, your lordship? And I threw my saddle and everything at her. And so that's it. I was fuming. We get back to Kerry Road in Blacktown and my grandfather, Reginald George Purdy, said, well, you've made history. It was the second last Sydney Royal in Moore Park. But everybody in Sydney back then thought it was going to be the last Royal and everything was going to move to Olympic Park. It didn't. It was the second last one. My horse stopped the Grand Parade. It was on the news. So it was on the news. And my grandfather, Reg, thought it was hilarious. Oh, well, you've gone down in history. You stopped the last Grand Parade at Moore Park. It wasn't, because the show continued the year after. And actually, it was my 19th birthday. My 19th birthday, they moved in to, I'm pretty sure it was my 19th, yeah, my 19th birthday, they moved into Olympic Park because we're riding around Olympic Park and my twin sister, we're in the marshalling yard and my twin sister comes riding up to me and she says, stop and listen, they're calling our names out. And what they did was they said, happy birthday to Justin and Amanda Fleming, who 19 years ago, they were almost born on this when it was a sale yard. Because it's true, my mum went into labour right there in Homebush Bay with Amanda and myself when she was riding a horse. So yeah, so that actually is true. So anyway, again, get off the subject, but I'll go back to it because when these people from Tamworth started, so when this organisation started trying to find information out, I've already established Shane Charles is the one that used to hang around Denny, my mum's brother. We never did. We never had anything in common with my mum's brother. So he used to go hunting and fishing. My grandfather, Reginald George Purdy, took me fishing once with him on rock fishing in Sydney, and he came back to Kerry Road and said to Lola, never again. Justin doesn't shut up. I was like, God, I couldn't stand fishing. I just want to go out and Pop's boat. I liked going out in the boat, but I didn't like when they stopped boating around and started fishing. I found it boring. It was fun, like riding the waves on the boat. But anyway, so there was that. Because there was always a boat. We were always massive big nautical people and ocean people as well. Pop always had his boat out on the harbour. Actually, that last boat he had went to Henry Gosling from the Pigeon Club, from Blacktown and Marion Pigeon Club. Henry Gosling. There you go. The Goslings will remember me as well. So yeah, I turned out arrogant like Reg. Was inevitable to happen. Well, both my grandfathers were arrogant and pig-headed and stubborn and rude. So I'm not going to change. You just have to put up with me. Anyway, what I was saying, so yeah, there was that part to do with Shane Childs, and then there was this other guy, to do with, what was it? Because he was in the Musical Society. Darren Taylor, that was another one. I was like, you just described Darren Taylor. Wrong person, and you say you know me. And then somebody else described Justin Pascoe, and I was like, yeah, man, look, I know who you're talking about, because they're like, oh, you had a brother at your high school. I'm like, no, I didn't have a brother at my high school. I didn't have an older brother, and I wasn't blonde, and I didn't finish year 10 in 94. I finished year 10 in 95, and I didn't go to McCarthy. I went to LA Rosary College. And they're like, yes, you did. And this guy, I'm like, no, you didn't. But I know who you're talking about, because you've just meant, like, this is on through social media where someone's talking about somebody who sung Phantom of the Opera. And I'm like, yeah, I know who you're talking about. I remember that school assembly. But you are talking about Justin Pascoe, who sung Phantom of the Opera in school assembly. And they're like, but you were in Joseph, in the musical Joseph. I'm like, yes. But so was Justin Pascoe. I wasn't blonde, I'm black-haired. That was one thing after 2015 with this ridiculous organisation as well. And then the majority of the time it was like, wow, so a nursing home where my mother's second husband worked. So my ex-stepfather worked for this Freemason nursing home called Moonby House, and his son from his first marriage, Daniel Rackley, because he lived in Tamworth as well and was living there long after I moved back home to Sydney, and he used to hang out there. He's a nurse like his father. So, and that's where I've had idiots go, oh, personality disorder. I'm like, how is it personality disorder when you're talking about my stepbrother? How is it personality disorder when when you've combined Justin Mark Fleming and Daniel Rackley as the one person? That's not personality disorder. You're making a mistake. And you're told this by me. And then you've made these mistakes. And then I turn around and say, well, you owe me damage for your mistakes. And then you make up and go, oh, he just wants money. It's like, wait a minute. You caused the trouble. You caused me damages and you don't want to pay for the damages. That's not my problem. Your mistakes cost me damages over 9 years. Your mistakes are compensatable to me because these have now caused me lifelong damages that I don't know I'm ever going to recoup from. I mean, it's pain and suffering for future pain and suffering plus past pain and suffering the last 9 years. It's like, these stupid people got information from where. And as for my mother, why would you ask my mother? I've never been close to her. Ask Lola when she was alive. My grandmother. That's why Lola's on my chest. That's my grandmother. Lola was my mother to me. And if they were still alive, my nan would stand there strong and say, Justin's mother has no idea about her kids from her first marriage. I read the twins. That's what Lola used to sit there and say. She used to say, I read the twins, and it's true. Until Mum could manipulate my twin sister and put her in a little bubble and feed her shit, keep her in the dark like a mushroom and feed her shit, which is what my mother did to my twin sister. That's it. Well, my twin sister doesn't even know who she's related to on her father's side. So it tells you how manipulative my mother is. My mother's a control freak. But then so is her two sisters. The three Purdy bitches are nothing but narcissistic, extremely toxic, control freaks of women that have issues about men. I've heard so many stories that isn't true. I mean, to the point where you can't say they haven't abused men. And I'll say this. Miriam Michalski smashed a bottle on Richard Michalski's face in front of all of the Polish side of the family back in Dernside when they were first together. He's got a scar down his face. That would have happened around, oh God, think of memory. Were they married? It may have been before 1991. Okay? Richard Mihalski's got a scar on his face. That scar came from his wife, Mary Mihalski, my mother's younger sister. Right? Robin Childs used to beat up her partner, not her kids, or I don't know, maybe she beat up her kid's first husband as well, which is Reg Childs. Robin Childs used to beat up Nab, which is Bruce Cobain. She did. They all have issues against men. And they've taught their daughters to be exactly like them, which is where I stopped believing the stories. You get to a point where you've got to start looking at making common sense of all this shit and go, yeah, but how much bullshit? You know what you've seen with your mother and her sisters, and you know what they carry on with. So would you believe them? You know, and that's it. So everyone that makes these stories up, it's like, yeah, look, I've had a gut with Amanda years ago. You know, if anyone wants information about me, here I am. You can get it from me. But if you don't get it from me and you've attacked my life over it, you owe me damages. There you go. It is really that simple. I'm not going to stand by where there was mistakes made in my life that were costly towards me for 9 years in 2 countries and stand back and say, sure, I'm going to pay the damage for your mistake. No, I'm not. For starters, the information didn't come from me. And that's a massive big thing. Certain people, groups and organisations chose to not just only gather information from unreliable sources and those with their own vested interest. However, they chose to not correct it early on when they were specifically told by myself, even in 2016, 2017, but the information you have isn't true. The information you have isn't true, so correct it. They specifically chose to not correct it. St. Vincent's is one of those organisations that chose not to correct it. A great example is, I don't know whatever lies my mother was up to, but I learned French. Well, I don't think my mother denied this. I learned French at Rosewood College in Year 7 and Year 8. My teacher, so there's 2 French teachers. Okay, one of them was Miss Davis. Davids or Davis? And she had the mousy brownish hair, short. The other one was Miss Craig. Miss Craig was she had black frizzy sort of bobbed hair. Miss Craig I had for music. She was lovely. Miss Davis was lovely as well. I had for French, and I enjoyed French. I had to choose my majors for years 9 and 10, and I couldn't do art and French, or couldn't do art and French. And there was another subject I wanted to do, but it clashed with commerce. So I did commerce with Mr. Tryon. I did art with Judy Bohr, and then when Judy Bohr had the stroke, I had Miss Gill, and drama with Miss Newbury. And so that was for years 9 and 10. But in years 7 and 8, so if you started in year 7 in 1992, you got to do all the electives. And there was a lot. It was a really good curriculum. The only thing I will say again about that school, but both my Roman Catholic schools had really good curriculums. Because you want to go back to St. Aidan's in the 80s, St. Aidan's in Rooty Hill, we had Mac computers. We had Apple computers. It was a really good school. I got to learn Latin. I mean, I did go to church twice a week as well. Oh, and on weekends, Wednesdays and Fridays, we had to go to church. We had a massive big church on our school grounds, 2 churches actually, at St. Aidan's, the old church and the new church. So used to go to St. Aidan's on Wednesdays and Fridays, almost religiously. And then, of course, on Sundays. So I did grow up in a very religious sort of background. I don't know why people would think otherwise. I'm Roman Catholic. It's weird when in the last 9 years I've had people start guessing what they thought my upbringing was. And I even had people think that I was Church of England or Protestant or something. It's like, where would you get that from? Like, I mean, I'll be honest, I don't know what religion my dad, Mark Ian Fleming's family is. All I know is that my pop, Stanley Fleming, was raised by Edith Kavanagh, and she was very religious. That she lived next door to the church. And I've got documents where the church have written, but I don't know if that's I don't know what religion that was, that Stanley Fleming was. I know he's not Roman Catholic because I know this because I'm Roman Catholic, and my dad's mother used to say, how much used to call us? Tykes? Or something? So Ruby, my dad's mother, used to say, you tykes, you sin on a Friday and repent on a Sunday. something like that. It was just an endearment. But yeah, that her son's mother's, his son's wife's family were Roman Catholics, which is me. So I do know that my nana Ruby, she was not Roman Catholic. I know that much. But all of my mother's side are going back to my great grandmother. Well, hang on, even so, on record, you can even see Roman Catholic in the documents back at Bridget Dufresne, my Nana Lola's great grandmother. So my great grandmother, Roman Catholic. So there's a long line of Roman Catholic in my family. And of course, I went for Roman Catholic schooling. My grandmother went to Roman Catholic schooling. I don't think my mother did, but that might have been a money thing. But we went to private schools. So, yeah. Look, you can really tell when all this information was just so wrong over the last 9 years. But the hilarious sort of subject or the, would you say the subcontext of the last 9 years is the fact that the information wasn't gathered from myself, however, related to myself. And I find it very humorous that these people still believe to themselves that they don't have to pay damages because they've hindered my life based on information that didn't come from me. I was like, but you do. It was your choice to not get you information from myself. But then, however, when I specifically went to this organization or certain people and said, but the information you have is incorrect, it doesn't relate to me at all. And here's the facts. They chose to not correct it. So that's the other thing. They were given enough time to correct the information over 9 years since 2015. They chose themselves as an organization to not correct it as per me, even though it relates to me. And I've turned around to them several times and said, but that information you have is not true. And they said, well, we're going to keep it like this. It doesn't matter where we get our information from. It's like, but I'm telling you as the person that information is supposed to be related to, that doesn't relate to me. It's not true. So the same people, groups and organizations that are sitting back with information that is false and not true about me have acted upon false and untrue information over a series of 9 years that has been damaging to my financially, credibility, tarnished my reputation, hindered me in 2 countries, caused a massive huge of damages that will be past, present, and future damages, including pain and suffering. And they will pay those damages. Because again, I will be very specific to say that these certain people, groups, and organizations were told early on by myself that the information that they have is inaccurate, it's false, it's untrue. And I'm the person telling you the information you have is untrue. So wherever you got information from about me, it doesn't match me, it doesn't match documents as well. So here's the documented facts, and here's the person themselves telling you the information that you have is incorrect, correct it. But here is your organization standing back saying, we're not going to correct it, we're going to stick with this, even though you're telling us it's not true and you're the person themselves. Okay, and that's won the argument already. It's like, okay, but you were given a chance. You were given a chance to not cause negligence. Instead, you chose the latter and you've caused the damage so you can pay for the damage. It's truly that simple.